Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cinema Flow podcast. I'm your host, Zack, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. He is a writer, director, producer, and actor. You may know him from Blackberry, which was my number one favorite film of 2023, as well as The Dirties and Operation Avalanche. He is one of Toronto's finest, and in my opinion, one of the best and most versatile filmmakers working today. On February 13th, you can see his new film, Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, in cinemas. The film follows Matt and Jay as they accidentally time travel to the year 2008 after their plan to book a show at the Rivoli goes horribly wrong. It is incredibly entertaining and hilarious. It's the perfect film to watch in the cinema with an audience. Now, without further ado, please welcome to the show the co-writer, director, and star of Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, the one and only Matt Johnson. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you, Zach. Happy to be here. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Really appreciate you taking the time. And I just want to say, I saw this film back in November, and there is nothing I love more than laughing in a theater with a crowd. And lately, there haven't been a lot of comedies in the theater, but you have found a way to evolve the R-rated comedy and create something that hasn't been done before. There are so many hilarious moments, like the scenes at the CN Tower, where I don't even know what's real and what's fake. I just assume everything is real. So I want to commend you for creating something completely unique and original, even if it is sort of a Back to the Future ripoff.
Yeah, well, look, that's my specialty. There's nothing I like better than making movies that seem so simple and stupid almost, and yet if you sit and actually watch them, they challenge you with a kind of, wait a minute, how stupid is this director actually?
Yeah. And in a world where you can create pretty much anything you want with CGI if you have enough money, I'm personally way more entertained by watching you guys with interact with like real life people and accomplish your goal, like with the Canadian Tire guy. That to me is way more of a magic trick than crazy visual effects.
I heard a great quote when I was in film school by a fellow filmmaker. His name's Nico Pereda, and Mexico's like, well, other than the big American names that we know, he's like the most prolific Mexican filmmaker alive. And we're sitting in class with our professor Teresa Barta, watching a Norman McLaren Canadian NFB art dance video. If you don't know Norman McLaren, he's Canadian art cinema royalty, and he made these movies uh, with prints where he would reprint 16 millimeter footage on top of itself in different colors and create these beautiful, almost like kaleidoscopic images. And I thought it was so stupid. I was like, what the hell? Like, this is so boring. Why are we even watching this? And Nico said, no, you really have this wrong. What's so amazing about this is that Norman McLaren is using tools that everybody has. And he's doing something with these tools that nobody else is doing, and yet they could. And that really blew my mind because I, of course, was looking at it from the point of view of somebody going and watching like Terminator 2 and being like, well, who cares? Like, I can have the T-1000 obliterate somebody. Why would I care about some stupid printed like dance video? And the truth is, like, the democratization of technology and using it in ways that other people could but aren't is really I mean, that's obviously where I like to be. So thank you, Nico.
That's amazing. And that's exactly what I was thinking as I saw this movie and then went back and watched some of the web show on YouTube. Because you did start the show with the tools that everybody has. And as a young filmmaker, that's very inspiring to me. It makes me want to get my friends together and go out and make something in the streets. It feels like you guys did this with very limited gear and like a very basic crew, and were able to amass an audience that put you in a position to like get the financing for this film. So I'm curious to know what your advice is to up and coming filmmakers, and what do you think people could learn from your actions going all the way back to 2007 when you started this?
I've tried, consciously or unconsciously, to include instructions in all my
Mhm.
movies for other young people to make movies of their own. It's like The Dirties is about how to make a movie. You're watching these two kids in high school struggle with making their first feature, and like the types of considerations that need to go into it. And also at the same time, like, well, the idea that these types of cameras and these wireless microphones are now essentially available to everybody in the world is featured in my work. Like, I try to show off the technology of these very small gate cameras where the lenses can zoom like for like half a football field, and how powerful these wireless mics are to basically show you that the only thing that is stopping you really from making movies, provided you're willing to have them within a certain aesthetic frame, is your will to do it. And it's painful. I mean, like every episode of that TV show and all my early movies took years to make, but there's that great tension of that triangle where you can have something that's either good, fast, or cheap. Everybody seems to know this. It's a kind of a maxim in filmmaking. You can only pick two between good, fast, and cheap. And so when you're young, obviously you don't have any money, so you have to pick cheap. And because you have nothing but time, you don't need to pick fast. And so if you want something good and cheap, just work forever on it. And I mean, that's the best advice I can give young people. It's painful because you need to overcome yourself, which is a lifelong challenge, but it is within your grasp. And we're seeing it more and more that YouTubers are starting to make movies irrespective of the quality of them. Like, I think I think one thing people forget is that you are not of equivalent value to the last thing you made. Like, you are the work of art. Like, the movies that you make are in fact making you. And so you should be doing work and making films, whether they're shorts, scripts, features, whatever it is, even if they're just little YouTube videos. The end product is not the single movie you make. It's you, the maker of movies. And so these things are slowly going to make you better. So by the time you're, in your 30s and 40s, hopefully you've done enough stuff that then you can just generate these types of things. And again, that's tough advice to take, because it's like, oh, wait a minute, so I just need to go out and fail over and over again. But unfortunately, that's reality. I think that's why film school is so useful, because it provides a scaffolding around you where you can fail, where it's like you get set out. The deadlines on films are like 2 weeks, whatever. You got to go out and make something. The secret is like everything you do there is supposed to in some ways be a failure, but it gets you used to the idea of completing things.
Yeah, and I think it's honestly more empowering when you put it that way. Like, it's interesting because I talked to Chris Stuckman for Shelby Oaks, his movie.
Perfect example. Perfect
Yeah,
example. Yeah.
and it was the difference is like because he had well, it's still a low budget movie, but he had like a million or something. He had to do his movie within like 20 days. Versus with your movie, it's different. Is he had like 200 days of shooting because he had the limited crew. And honestly,
But we had basically the same budget.
exactly. Yeah. And it's also interesting because you shot like two versions of the movie and scrapped them before landing on this idea. I was wondering, like, do you think we'll ever see any of that footage like on the Blu-ray special features or anything? Because I feel like there's a lot we can learn from like how that evolved into this.
I know people know that story, and I think they find it very juicy, which it is. But to us, when we were making the TV show, we would scrap episodes all the time. We viewed production as writing, right? Like, we would go out to shoot episodes as a form of writing the episode to just see if these things worked. And and everything that we shot is just being turned into episodes for the third season of the show. So yes, it will be released, but not in a like an inchoate form. It's going to be released as episodes of the television show. But that's always how that worked. Like, certainly there are total failures where you go and you try something that just does not work at all. And in that sense, this movie shot for 200 days. In reality, we probably could have shot this entire movie in 20 days had we known what the final movie would be. So it's not just that we shot a whole movie that we scrapped. We also shot dozens and dozens of scenes for this movie that we scrapped, dozens of versions of different scenes that are in the movie that are scrapped. It's like, it's a part of the process of like when you're sculpting something, you start with a gigantic thing of marble and then whittle it down. Here it's more like we're trying to build something out of mud, and so we're constantly having to throw mud on it to then peel that mud back to find our sculpture. And so it's well, yeah, it's a painful process. I'm sure there's a better way to do it.
Yeah, but I think this process is what makes it special. And I want to compliment you and Jay's performances. People might think, oh, you're playing Matt and Jay, but there's a lot of improvisation in this movie, and you both always seem so present and in the moment, always reacting to each other and the real life folks around you. How do you manage to balance the improv and spontaneity while also accomplishing the goal of each scene and pushing the story forward?
Jay and I both have, at this point in our lives, developed a really good radar for when something is narratively relevant. Whether we say it or somebody we meet in the street says it, like we both have a real sense of honing. We advert to it. That means turn towards like it is. It's all these like story beats are great advertising to us, and so the the idea that you say that we seem like we're in the moment and listening, that's because one, we have no idea what the other one is about to say, in the same way that we don't know what a stranger on the street's about to say. And so, and two, because we are genuinely interested in our surroundings, in the same way that uh, if you were out in the middle of a bank heist or a plan or something where you were doing something with a secret identity, you also would be very aware of what's going on around you because you'd be slightly scared. You'd be like, "Well, what's about to happen to me?" And so that doesn't happen by design. It's a side effect of shooting in these. Well, they're not like they're dangerous situations, but they're situations where we do not know what's about to happen next.
That's amazing. I also want to take a moment to compliment the editing of this movie. I think this movie should be nominated for Best Editing at the Oscars because your editors, Kurt and Bobby, had to incorporate a ton of footage from 2008 into the time travel scenes of this movie and make it all work seamlessly, which it does. I was wondering what that process was like and how their contributions enhanced the movie.
In my opinion,
Mhm.
the movies I make are strictly an editor's medium. Like I'm not making movies from the perspective of a director or a writer or an actor. Like that's I'm and that is um, maybe not unique, but I view editing as filmmaking. I think that when I discovered editing as a kid, uh, when I first like downloaded a cracked version of Adobe Premiere, I don't even remember what version it was. It like changed my life. Nonlinear editing on a computer changed my life. It's the closest thing to wielding magic I've ever felt, where you could film something and then recontextualize it through editing so that what actually happened differently. And I don't know, I'm still under the spell of that initial moment when I realized what nonlinear editing was. And because of that, this ties into the question you just asked about how much we shoot. Kurt and Bobby make my movies. Like they are more responsible for Nirvana the band than I am. Like they are the ones who are figuring out new connections. It is this there's a concept in science, which is that, and it's somewhat new, like within the last decade or so, that it's really taking off. And it's the notion that you get an expert from a neighboring field to come into your field and give you advice, or basically just to hear the problems that you're having in your field. So you would have like maybe a biologist come in and listen to a bunch of mathematicians, PhDs, try to figure out something that they're solving. And there's something about having a totally outside voice without any of the baggage and context of, in this case, of the shoot, of what footage you liked, whatever, having them come in and make decisions autonomously on their own about what the movie will be based on what you shot, that leads to breakthroughs that you could never have on your own. You could never have this type of breakthrough by yourself unless you're so sober and like almost in a Buddhist way, disconnected from the outcome of what you did. And so if I've discovered anything as a filmmaker, it is that autonomy and absolute freedom with uh, with editing is the key to success and time. And I completely agree with you. I think that the number one miracle of all my films, but this one in particular, is the editing. And Kurt and Bobby are 100% responsible for that. I hope that they get the accolades they deserve. But I'm heartened by the fact that everybody I talk to who kind of knows filmmaking or knows what's up always asks me the same thing: Who are your editors?
That's awesome. I love that collaboration you guys have. I know that I believe Kurt worked on Blackberry, right? Like that also such
So,
a well-edited
yeah,
movie.
so did Bobby. So
Bobby,
did
oh,
Bobby. Yeah.
yeah. The soundtrack for this film is also incredible. You have the score by Jay, which is has great moments like the CN Tower, which it feels like Mission Impossible. I was
Yes.
genuinely on the edge of my seat, thanks to the music. But also you have great songs like Army by Ben Folds Five, Borrowed Time by Tom Martin, and Holiday by Turnstile. What is your process like selecting the songs for this movie, and how did you find the right ones for each scene?
Well, I love music, and I should rephrase that. I love music in movies, and I think that as a storytelling device, the right song not only sets up like the stakes of we're always using them in montages, but they basically are a shorthand to letting the audience know, well, what are we accomplishing here? What's being solved? And because of that, I always view them as problem solving tools. Like what song is going to best solve this problem that the story is having in this moment. And it's funny. It's a real, if you know, you know, like, or I should more say when you know, like that Turnstile song. A friend of mine named Alec had played it for me years and years and years ago. I was making a music video for his band, and we were watching this music video for the Turnstile made three music videos and released them all together as one big thing. And I was just so blown away by the the energy that these guys had, and it reminded me so much of like what Matt and Jay, the characters, kind of wish they were, like they wish they could be this, and so it just seemed aspirational in the right way. Ben Folds obviously is like the main song of the TV series, so it made sense to use it at that moment. But yeah, I again, film. Many people have said this before, but film is one of the places where you can really highlight and showcase music to audiences, where it is having the dual purpose of creating a kind of thematic underpinning to the footage you're watching, while at the same time um, moving the story forward. So I don't know. Again, it's like when you hear the right song, you just know that, oh, that needs to be in this movie. And oftentimes I'll just hear random music and think, oh, I know what movie this would be in. So yeah, it's something I enjoy a lot.
Absolutely. And like the end credits song, The Waters of March, that has the right emotion, I think, for the ending, because the movie is very heartfelt as well as being funny. Um,
That's stolen from like a lot of my song picks from a documentary that Jay and I loved when we were growing up called Comedian, which is a documentary about Jerry Seinfeld. And the closing credits of that movie uses that exact same song in, for the same reason that we do. So
That's amazing. I also want to compliment the locations in this movie. I've been to Toronto several times and you make it look amazing. And you also show how nice and helpful Canadians are. What do you hope people learn about Toronto from watching this movie? And what are some fun spots that tourists should check out when they visit Toronto, other than the Rivoli, of course?
look, a goal for everybody on this team was that Americans or people around the world really would see this movie and go, oh, I should go to Toronto. I think that Toronto is notoriously undervisited. I wish more tourists would come here. And it's why we're showing off the CN Tower and the Sky Dome and all of these somewhat ridiculous, uh, well, what would you call them? Like tourist traps, really. But they're beautiful. They're beautiful. We got a Ripley's. But in terms of hidden gems, if you come here, I would say something that I think gets missed is that Toronto is pretty big, and if you're just going downtown, you would miss some of the most beautiful places that you can go. And to me, if you're here on the weekend, just going with your family on a walk through Hyde Park is really something. It's like not at the same size and scope as Central Park in New York, but it's close and it's forested. It's like a truly a forest inside of a city. And there's all kinds of beautiful paths, an amazing old school restaurant right in the middle. There's a zoo where we have two capybaras and other various wonderful creatures that are around even in winter. Like, and it's completely free. On the weekend, there's no cars going through it. Like, again, a lot of people know this. Like, anybody from Toronto listening to this is going, yeah, big whoop. But if you're visiting from out of town, I think it's something that a lot of people miss. If you come during cherry blossom season, it's packed. I mean, there's some beautiful trees, but you're better off going to Trinity Bellwoods to see those there. But yes, please come to Toronto and come to High Park. You'll love it here.
Absolutely. They have a lot to be proud of. Also, one of my favorite gags in this movie is the Orbitz drink and the fact that it's the secret ingredient for time travel. I was wondering, were you a fan of Orbitz when it was out? And if so, what was your favorite flavor?
I loved Orbits. When I first discovered it, I thought it was like a revolution. It was like the original food entertainment to me. I now am a lover of bubble tea, but this predated it, at least in North America. I think Taiwan came up with bubble tea, maybe even in the 80s. But for me in Ontario, I saw this drink on the stands and was like, what is this? It's defying gravity. How are these gelatin balls floating? And then, yeah, it was like, do I chew it? Do I drink it? For me, it changed everything. And in terms of favorite flavor, basically anything that was in the more serious stone fruits. So cherry, peach. I stayed away from lemon, like anything that was too acidic because my molars were quite sensitive to very high citric acid, and it got worse as I got older. And so I stuck with the coconuts, these types of darker colors, darker flavors.
That's wonderful. I once made a short film where the MacGuffin was the original version of a Kinder chocolate egg, which is only
Ah,
available in Canada, no longer in the US. So I always appreciate a funny MacGuffin like that.
I heard this, yeah, that they've made the Kinder Surprise illegal in your country because of a choking hazard or something for children. Like, I assume that that's
Yeah.
the excuse, but yeah, I love Kinder Surprise.
Yeah. I mentioned before that Blackberry was my favorite film of 2023. I'm not blowing smoke. People can go back and check my letterboxd. I said that that film should have won Best Picture. But one thing I've noticed about your filmography is that no two films are the same. The Dirties is completely different from Operation Avalanche, which is different from Blackberry, which is different from Nirvana. Of course, we can always see the creative voice of Matt Johnson, but you're very versatile. I was wondering if you could speak to that. And also, is there a genre or a type of movie that you haven't explored that is still on your bucket list?
I don't have a bucket list in that way. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like I think about movies that I would really want to uh, make. What I like is stories, and so if I hear about a story or a character or a pursuit that I really find personally interesting, then I'm going to chase that, and the approach that I find is going to be whatever is useful to that protagonist. Uh, it's funny you say that these films are different. I view them all as so similar, but of course I can see how it seems like as I get older, the approach does seem to change. In my head, I view like the process of filmmaking as problem solving. It's like I'm trying to tell a story or I'm trying to express something about like these characters with the tools that I have. And so the process by which I'm making these movies is oftentimes a means to an end, as opposed to my own aesthetic like desire. It's like, oh, I want to make a movie that really feels like a documentary, and I really want it to play these games with the audience. Like, in some ways, those are side effects to the practical limitations that I have making movies with my few friends here in Toronto. Like, they need to be that way simply because that's what I can get. And so a lot of these things that have been discovered along the way, like this proximity to the real world, this constant guessing game of how are they doing this or what is real and what isn't, are all some way like downstream of this big decision, which is how are we going to make a movie, period. Like like making movies is so hard. It's so difficult to get through the acts of a story in a classical sense, and have them be compelling enough that an audience won't turn it off. That that this is just the way that I figured out how to do it. with the tools that I have.
That's so true. And I think like every time you're making a movie, the inertia of life just does not want this movie to exist, but you have to push against it in pursuit
Yes,
of that story.
yes. In fact,
Yeah.
that's the real the painful thing that all directors need to learn, which is that the challenge of making a movie is that you need to control reality at every level and have it come off effortless. And so it's so much work, so much effort. Like literally, it's like you're tensing everything that you've got in order to make it seem light on its feet and as though it just happened. And so that the tension between those two things, so to speak, is it's a nightmare. It's so painful. It's so painful.
And you mentioned that what you attracts you to this particular movie is the story. One of my most anticipated films is Tony, the upcoming film by Anthony Bourdain starring Dominic Sessa, which you're currently in post-production on, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I know you can't reveal much, but I was wondering if you could tell me what excited you to sign on to that project and tell that story.
Dominic Sessa. I had a meeting with him in New York, and I had no intention of making this Bourdain movie. And I sat down for lunch with him, and we just talked for 2 hours. And that there was something in him where I realized, oh, these guys are the same. Like Dominic is from a similar part of New Jersey. Like he's from Ocean City, so it's not it's the same state, but like his background was so similar. Private school background, the things he was interested in. It was like I right away I realized that even though I myself didn't follow Anthony Bourdain or his career, I was so zeroed in on this kid and what he found interesting and the way he viewed the world. And I saw so many connections between his worldview and the worldview of Anthony Bourdain when he was a kid based on his writing that I just thought that the synthesis between these two things was so compelling to me that I wanted to explore it. And that's in some ways what that movie was for me, like me exploring the life of this man along with this actor.
Absolutely. He's amazing in The Holdovers, and I'm sure he's going to be amazing in this film as well. One last fun question before we wrap up. This movie comes out on February 13th in limited release and will be expanding into wide release in the following weeks. For everyone in the big cities, why is this the perfect film to watch on Valentine's Day?
I would say if you want to, I mean, if you're going there with on a first date, that it may not go well. Like you like this is going to be a real. If you bring a first date to this movie and you have a great time, you guys are going to get married because you will have found something that you both understand, a secret code, like a lingua franca that is just for you, and you will be bonded forever. But it may also be the last time you ever see this person because it is a great litmus test for what it is that you find funny, what you can tolerate, the types of stories you like. And so all I can say is that if you want to take an amazing risk and change your life potentially forever, this Valentine's Day, bring someone you're well, maybe even somebody you newly love to this movie and see what happens.
Matt, I just want to say thank you so much for being so generous with your time. It's not every day that you get to speak to one of your favorite filmmakers, so this is a huge honor for me, and I know that this movie is going to be a huge hit. I'm always rooting for you, and I hope that I get to talk to you again when Tony comes out.
You back. I look forward to that as well. I love your energy. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Of course. Thank you, Matt. And to everyone listening, please go watch Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie in cinemas on February 13th. It's hilarious. It's entertaining. It literally plays like a rock concert with a sold out crowd. My audience was laughing and cheering and clapping by the end of the film. If you want that type of theatrical experience, then hit up your friends and family and make plans to see this movie when it comes out. Now, with that said, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Cinema Flow podcast. Be sure to rate us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And I will see you at the Rivoli. Goodbye.
You're a real pro. I love the show. Thank you.